Hey guys, this is Sophia. You might have seen me in Hey guys, it's Sophia. You might have seen my last tutorial on Biossance's YouTube of my nighttime routine, and now I'm back to show you how I get ready for my day using Biossance's new Squalane and Vitamin C Rose Mask as the perfect prep step for my makeup routine. Better. For those of you who don't know, I am absolutely obsessed with makeup. I try everything and anything I can get my hands on, and I have been doing that since I was a little girl. So I am so excited to show you my tips and tricks for an easy everyday makeup look. As a makeup junkie, I think that the absolute most important step in your routine has to be your skincare. Your base needs to look perfect before you can even put any of the makeup on. Otherwise, the rest of what goes on, it just isn't gonna look that great. A brand new addition that I absolutely love in my routine is this Biossance Squalane and Vitamin C Rose Mask. This is amazing for brightening and for actually just kind of lifting your whole mood before you either get ready for your day or get ready to go out at night and you want your makeup to look just absolutely poppin'. So I'm gonna start with this. I'm gonna put out a few pumps on my hand. So I take about 3 to 4 pumps and I'm just gonna apply this really evenly to my skin. And what's awesome about this is it's actually a gel to cream formula. So as you're rubbing it in, the vitamin C starts to activate and it instantly starts brightening your skin for that amazingly glowy base that everybody wants. So what I really love about masking before you're doing your makeup is that when you try and apply makeup over dull, dry, or just kind of like not bright skin, it doesn't look great. Your makeup can't do that much for you. So what you have to start with is a beautiful skincare base, and that's why I love this mask. The rose, the vitamin C, it is so hydrating and it makes your skin look really dewy and give you that glow from within. And I just really love the way that it looks underneath makeup because it provides the perfect base to have a fresh, smooth complexion. Another great thing about this mask is that it is actually gentle to use every day. So it only takes about 10 minutes, but I don't necessarily have 10 spare minutes every day, so I try to use it about 3 to 4 times a week to keep my skin really bright and dewy. But also as you wear it, it fades down to be a more translucent color, so you're not necessarily gonna scare your takeout guy every single time you answer the door in a mask, which we've all done. So now that I've scrolled some Instagram, answered some emails, I'm ready to take it off. Let's get this going. My skin feels so nice and refreshed now, and the little bit of lingering rose smell is so nice. It really calms me down and gets me ready for the rest of my day. Another few steps before I get to my makeup. I love using the rest of my Biossance skincare products to prep my face. What I always start with is a serum. I take the Biossance Squalane PHYTO Retinol Serum and I pump out a few pumps of that. Just about 1 or 2. You don't want to use too much, and just pat that into your skin. My mom told me never rub, you don't want to cause wrinkles. And then always bring it down your neck. And then my next step is always an eye cream. So this is actually a major tip for makeup. You cannot put any concealer or any makeup under your eyes without prepping it with an eye cream base. Otherwise it's really gonna settle into any little lines that you have or start creasing immediately, and nobody wants that. So I absolutely swear by the Biossance Squalane and Peptide Eye Gel. And this stuff feels like magic. I put it on my little ring fingers, which have the least amount of pressure, and then just dab that under my eyes. And I actually bring it all the way around, which I don't feel like most people do, because even though I typically use an eye primer, it's really nice to create a base on your eyelids so that eyeshadow applies more evenly and doesn't look really powdery, because most of the time I'm using a powder eyeshadow. And even for girls with oily eyelids, don't be scared to put eye cream on them, because it actually might counteract and balance out some of the oil that's already there. And then next I am going to make my little morning time cocktail. So I take the Squalane and Omega Repair Cream, and then the Squalane and Vitamin C Rose Oil, if you notice, is actually in this little limited edition bottle. It is so pretty. So I take about just 1 dropper and take about 2 drops of the rose oil, and then a bit of a dab of the repair cream, and I just mix those together in my hands. And I really want to warm it up so that it melts into my skin super easily and doesn't create any sort of top layer. And then I'm just gonna kind of press that into my face going upwards. A lot of people jade roll and they massage their face every day to drain out any sort of puffiness, but I really don't have time for that every day. So I use my moisturizer step as my little face massage. And this stuff, even though it is a rich moisturizer for dry skin, it really settles into your skin so nicely and just absorbs right away. So you don't need to go wait 20 minutes for this to get into your skin and have a really moisturized base. It happens pretty instantly. And then next, I actually take a little bit more of that rose oil, just about 1 more drop, and I put it right on my index finger. Rub that into my 2 index fingers, and I'm gonna do a little bit of a pre-highlight on the contours or the highlights of my cheek, just so that when I apply my foundation, there's already a little bit of dewiness where I want it, and it's that glow from within. See, now I have cheekbones. A little bit down your nose, anywhere you'd apply highlighter, and now I'm ready for makeup. Now that I have all of my skincare ready and on my face and fully absorbed into my skin, I actually just go right into my complexion products, and I don't use a primer. So I know that that is a big controversy in the beauty industry. Primers, are they necessary or not? Unless I am going out for a full night out where I want my makeup to stay caked onto my face, I actually think that good skincare is the best primer you can use, and therefore I just go right into my foundation. So you can probably see, but this one angered up overnight, and so we have a few blemishes on my face to cover up. So I'm gonna start by just putting a little bit of concealer on and then covering with my foundation. So I take a bit of concealer and I dab it off because I don't want to apply too much. And then I just dab it right onto any spots that I want to cover up. And this is typically just anywhere that has been really acting up. I try not to put too much concealer on my face because, again, I really want my skin to show through. And then I take a beauty blender. Who doesn't love a good beauty blender? And a fresh one is even better. And then I just very lightly pat it over those spots because I don't want to remove any of the coverage from the concealer, but I also don't want big spots of concealer sitting there. And hey, everyone gets blemishes, so if they show through a little bit, it's all right. And now ready for foundation. So I mix up my foundation a little bit to make sure that any of the natural separation that occurs is all mixed together. And then I take about 1 to 2 drops. And I actually don't like full coverage foundations. I think that Instagram really started this trend, and YouTube, of this full face of makeup, but I prefer something a little bit more light to medium coverage, something that's not gonna cover up my skin at all, because I used these amazing skincare products to make sure that I have good skin. If I wanted to really just put on a full face of full cover, I wouldn't need good skin. And then I dab my beauty blender right into that and just start lightly dabbing all over my face. I really prefer a sponge, and especially a wet sponge, because I feel like it adds more dewiness to the foundation that you're applying, and it gives you a really even application. And if you're using anything more full coverage, it'll really shear it out so that it's not caking on, which sometimes can happen if you use your hands or a brush. And then I use actually the really big round end of the beauty blender because it covers the most. I don't have 20 minutes to sit here blending out all of my foundation, but applies it really evenly, and then you have to bring it down your neck. You cannot have a face that is completely separate from your neck. So at least I just drag down my foundation a bit below my jawline and hitting my vocal cords as I'm going. So then I'm creating it, at the very least, a gradient up to my face and not just a full mask over my face. Great, and as you can see, really not that full coverage. I don't like to cover up my skin too much. If I have a blemish, who doesn't? it's okay. And we're all set there. Okay, so next I actually take a liquid liner and I go into my eyeliner. I wait to put my concealer on in case I mess it up at all and it gets under my eyes. I'm gonna shake this one up. And my daily look is a really subtle wing. Now, it might be a little bit too much for some people, but because I have brown eyes, I really like to use a brown eyeliner on a daily basis because I feel like it nicely outlines the shape of my eyes and also kind of brings out the color a little bit more. So I'm gonna gently hold this down without pulling down my eyelashes and just start really lightly going in at the base here. And then I bring it up. It doesn't look good. Oh boy. I think that liner takes the most practice out of the entire makeup face that you're doing. It is something that I did not get good at until I started doing it every single day, and then I finally got into a little bit of a groove. But your eyeliner should really match on both sides, and a lot of Q-tips are harmed in this process most days. So after I do one eye and I make sure none of it gets onto my lashes at all, I go in with the other and I really try and mirror the angle that I did with this wing on that side. Now, if you really mess this up, just take the wings off and then you just have some nicely lined up. One tip I actually do have for a cat eye is that I have an inability to use a typical felt tip pen. I much prefer a liner that you can take and dip into the liner pot because you can control how much liquid is gonna come out. And you want a really steady flow of liner coming out to create a good wing. If it starts running out of product, you're gonna start seeing it skip on your eye, and then you're gonna end up with a really uneven or too thick panda cat eye. All right, and then I use this really fancy trick, which is I take my hands and I use them to dry my eyeliner to make sure it doesn't get anywhere on my eyelids. You might notice I actually don't drag my eyeliner all the way into my inner corner because I think that creates too dramatic of a look for every day. I kind of start it a third of the way into my eyelid and then I drag it out to do the wing, and then I use the mascara to cover any of the other eye that is showing. So next I will jump into mascara. Again, if it gets under my eyes, it's an easy removal with my concealer, and I wait to do my concealer until after I'm completely done with my eyes. So I'm gonna take my eyelash curler, which if you don't use one, you should. Who doesn't want curled eyelashes? And I'm gonna lightly press down, trying not to get it on my eyeliner at all so it doesn't take any of that off. And I do a few clamps on this to make sure that they are the most curly and lengthened and lifted. And then mascara. Mascara is my favorite thing. If I could wear anything every day, it would be mascara. I think if your eyes look open and defined and volumized, then the rest of your face has an open, defined, and volumized look as well. So I first use a lengthening formula. I think that you can create a really good base using a lengthening mascara, and then you start to layer to really build up that volume later. So I'm just gonna do one really thin coat first all over my eyelashes. I take a Q-tip and then I don't actually take the part with the cotton because I don't want any little cotton pieces to get on my mascara, but I take the mid section of the Q-tip and I use it just to get anything off of the tips of my lashes that might start looking spidery. And then next, I take a volumizing mascara just to really pump up the volume and create a really good layering system at the root of my lashes. So you just want to wiggle that in. You actually don't want to bring it all the way up to the tips because you're going to start getting spidery then. Okay, and then I go back in with that Q-tip, do the same little deal here. And then I actually take the end of the Q-tip that is cotton and I just rub it over my eyelid to make sure that any little mascara pieces that might have gotten on my eyelid are not hanging around for too long. So I'm Italian. I have dark under eye circles pretty much no matter how tired or energized I am. And so I need concealer every day. So I love a concealer that is about 1 to 2 shades lighter than your face shade because then it creates that really nice brightening effect right under your eyes. So I dab a few little concealer specks onto my under eye, And then I go right back in with that Beauty Blender. And this time I'm actually gonna use the thinner side of the Beauty Blender because then I can really get into the contour of my under eye. Again, just dabbing underneath, not rubbing. And this you can actually bring down a little bit under your eye contour because you wanna create a really bright kind of shadow, a bright shadow, an oxymoron, under your eyes in a bit of a triangle shape so that when the light hits you, it is coming right here and making your whole face look brighter. Take whatever is left on my Beauty Blender and just kind of bring it down my nose. A little bit more up there and a little bit on my chin. So any point where you would want light to hit you and for the concealer to catch that. And next let's hit the brows. Another part of being Italian, a lot of eyebrow. So I really started playing around with makeup, I think when I was 3 or 4. My mom never wore too much. She kept it pretty natural, but she definitely had a daily routine and she always looked very put together. And I remember she had an eyelash curler and I was in her bathroom and I found it in the garbage because it was old and disgusting. And I picked it up out of the garbage and I brought it upstairs to my bathroom and started using it. And then I went downstairs and said, "Mom, I used your eyelash cutter." And she immediately got terrified that I was cutting off my eyelashes. And then I showed it to her and she realized that I was just figured out how to curl my eyelashes using her old disgusting trashy eyelash curler. So that was probably my first beauty product. And then from then on, she kind of let me start experimenting with all of her products and putting blush on my face and putting a little bit of lip gloss on just so that I felt like I was really playing around with her. I really do think that makeup is the key to enhancing someone's confidence because if you feel beautiful, you feel confident. So makeup can do a lot for you and I think that's what I love about it. I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I definitely am a junkie for sure. And right now I'm just kind of gelling down my eyebrows because they get a bit unruly. But I love product. I will try anything that I can get my hands on, sometimes to a fault. You can just never have too much makeup. You can put on too much makeup, but you can never have too much makeup, and that's what I love about it. You can always be experimenting, trying something new, and learning a new tip and trick. One of my favorite tricks and products that I use actually is a cream bronzer. I don't use a powder bronzer because I do have dry skin, and I find that it'll kind of pick up any dry patches that I have, and sometimes makes my skin look a little bit older and more textured than it actually is. So I like to take a cream bronzer, and this is gonna look scary, but I promise it's not. And I just apply a little bit of that cream bronzer to not necessarily the lowest contour, but right below where you would highlight. And I do that on both sides, just draw a little bit of a line. And then I take my Beauty Blender again, and then I use the side that I haven't used yet, and you can kind of see it actually lines up with where your face, where you're gonna start blending in. And then I just start dabbing that bronzer in. And the reason why I don't bring it all the way down to where people typically consider your contour to be, which is right there, is because if you bring your contour or your bronzer below that point, you actually create a shadow and make your face look less defined. So I like to start it up, knowing that it'll blend down a little bit, and then I'm gonna be right in that perfect zone. And you always gotta blend into the hairline. Your makeup can't stop right at the borders of your face, because that'll be extremely noticeable. And I'm not too cautious about where it goes. If it goes a little bit into my cheeks, that's okay. Then I look a little bit more sun-kissed and bronzed. And that's why you always have to pick a bronzer shade that isn't too warm and also isn't too ashy. I like the one that's right in between because you can use it to contour without looking too crazy and like fully defined and all the time, but you can also bring it into your cheeks so that you look warm and sun-kissed. I take whatever's left, I put a little bit up here, and then I actually don't wear eyeshadow every day. I feel like it sometimes is a little bit too much of a hassle. So what I'll do is I'll take a little eyeliner brush, like this one. And I take a little bit of that same cream bronzer I used on my face, and I actually just apply it in my crease. And that makes it so you have a little bit of a defined lid. I have pretty big eyelids to begin with, but it doesn't look like a full-on done up eye because I don't like to go into the office looking like I'm ready to go to the club. Blend and blend and blend until you can barely notice it's there. And then I actually don't set or bake anything on my face. A lot of people who do have oily skin or want their makeup to last for the entire day, say you're going to work and then you have activities after work, like a dinner or a date or anything like that, you might want to powder your face, put a little bit more powder on to just make sure that it lasts all day. But because I have such dry skin, I try not to powder anything, and I have dry under eyes, so I just use a concealer that doesn't crease and is self-setting, and then I don't have to go in with that other baking step because I'm trying to leave out steps wherever possible, but still create a nice long-lasting makeup look. And then lastly on my eyes, I am going to take a really thin mascara with a really thin wand, and I am just going to apply that to my bottom lashes. And this again is just another defining step. I think if your eyes are nicely defined and prominent, they are the focal point of your face. So I actually use a different mascara on my bottom lashes because I want something that has a really small defined wand, so it picks up those really tiny baby lashes you have on your bottom. But I wait until after I do my top mascara because I want to make sure that my concealer base is there first, and then I do my bottom, because if you try and put concealer on after you do your bottom lashes, it's just gonna start smudging everything in, and you're gonna end up with a really nice gray under eye shadow, which is what we all want, obviously. So now my eyes are completely done, I promise. And I'm just gonna do a few more finishing touches and then we're all set to go. One thing I love, now this is something that I don't see a lot of YouTubers doing. It was a trend for a little bit and I really clung on to this one, is I love to make a faux freckle. Now this I mostly started doing because I would have little acne bursts and I would want to cover them in a really easy, natural looking way. But then I just started realizing I like the way I look with freckles, and it's a good way to get a really nice sun-kissed look without actually having to expose your skin to any sun. So I actually take a product that is meant for making faux freckles, and I really thinly apply little dots where people typically have freckles. So I'll just do a few on my nose and then down the base of my cheeks. And you can see I actually have a few little freckles on my skin, so it doesn't look totally out of place. Wait for those to dry for a little bit. Again, my fancy hand technique. And then I apply a cream blush. So again, something I love about cream products is that I think they just melt right into your skin. They look super natural. You don't get a lot of harsh lines when you use a cream product, and they're really good for dry skin. So I'm gonna take that same big base of my Beauty Blender and I'm gonna rub it into my cream blush here, but not pick up too much product. And what I'm gonna try and do is blend out the freckles so they look a little bit less defined and more natural using the blush. So I'm just gonna blot them wherever I put the freckles. And I like to use a blush, especially because of my skin tone, which is a little bit more of an olivey complexion. I like to use a blush that has a little bit of like a dusty rose kind of color, so it blends in seamlessly with my bronzer and doesn't look like someone just came up and pinched my cheeks. And one other little pro tip is I take the smaller side of my Beauty Blender, I put it on my blush, and I put a little bit of a stripe right on the tip of my nose here, because when you get a sunburn, that's where it goes. And then you look like you were right out in the sun with your freckles and your blush. Okay, and last but not least, highlighter. So we already started with that really nice rose oil underneath the foundation, so I actually still have a bit of a natural highlight going from the oil under my foundation, but I'm going to take a bit of a cream liquid highlighter, pump out a little bit on my hand here, just a dab. You don't need a lot of highlighter, especially if it's a concentrated formula. And guess what tool I'm using? Again, my Beauty Blender. And I take the small side of it. Don't take too much product. And then I just bring it onto the high points of my cheeks and around my temples right here. That way it looks super natural. Like if the light is just hitting your face, it is gonna catch right on this point right here. Do that on both sides. You want everything about your makeup to blend really seamlessly into any other product that you used. And you don't want anything to look too forced or stripy. And it should all really go with how the light naturally hits your face. I'm gonna blend out those freckles a little bit more. And I put a little bit more highlighter just on the tip of my nose. A lot of people use it completely down the bridge of their nose, and I actually don't want my nose to look any longer, so I like to just keep it on the tip. Okay, so as my final finishing step to my makeup, to make sure it lasts as long as I need it to, I use Biossance's Fine Mist, and I use it as not only a setting spray, but it makes everything on your skin look so dewy, but in a natural way, and it keeps my skin hydrated for longer. Again, dry skin gal right here. So I'm just gonna shake that up. Like, watch that, that is the finest mist. So cool. And then I take my hair down, rile it up a little bit. You still want that I woke up like this kind of look, so your hair can't be too done. So before I head out for the day and after I've finished my entire face, I like to just add a little bit of a lip just to define my lips a little bit more. Everyone wants a little bit of fuller lips. So I take a really natural nude shade of liner, and I don't do anything too particular here. I just literally outline where my lips are. Fill them in a little bit with that same color. And then I take a nice gloss, and I keep this one in my bag throughout the day so that I can keep reapplying. And this just adds a nice nude, hydrated look to the rest of my very natural looking makeup routine. So thank you guys so much for coming into my bathroom and watching my everyday makeup routine. If you want to actually go behind the scenes with me and see how Biossance makes their brand new Rose and Vitamin C mask, you can click the video up here. I actually went into the lab and saw all of the mechanics and the scientifics behind it. And thank you guys so much. Subscribe to Biossance's YouTube channel, and I'll be back for more tutorials.